Good evening, Philippines and the world. Today is Wednesday, February 19, 2020. Join us for the next 45 minutes as we deliver today's top stories around the globe. I'm Angelo Castro III.
We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and live via streaming worldwide through UNTV News and Rescue Facebook account and untvweb.com. I am William Theo.
And here are the headlines.
Hong Kong records its second coronavirus fatality as the death toll rises above 2,000 worldwide. The number of Filipinos positive for the coronavirus disease aboard Diamond Princess cruise ship docked off Japan climbs to 41. The Department of Health plans to repatriate all Filipinos on the cruise ship in one batch only. Aviation authorities still uncertain when normal flight operations will resume amid the coronavirus scare. A ranking official of the Bureau of Corrections was shot dead by unknown assailants in Muntinlupa City. The government withholds the release of 80 billion peso congressional realignment in the 2020 national budget. And the Quezon City government holds the above-ground construction of an MRT-7 station at the Quezon Memorial Circle.
Hundreds of people began disembarking a quarantined cruise ship off Japan as the death toll from the new coronavirus in mainland China passed 2,000 and the number of new cases in the country fell for a second straight day.
Meanwhile, the World Health Organization confirmed a total of 92 cases of human-to-human spread of the coronavirus in 12 countries outside China. But officials stressed that there is no evidence of a sustained local transmission. Stephanie C. details why.
A second person has died of the coronavirus in the semi-autonomous financial hub of Hong Kong, the local hospital authority announced this morning. The victim was a 70-year-old man who was diagnosed with the virus on February 14 before being admitted to Princess Margaret Hospital. There are now 62 confirmed cases of the virus across Hong Kong and 2 deaths. The number of deaths from the coronavirus outbreak in mainland China rose by 136, pushing the nationwide death toll to 2,004 as of the end of Tuesday, the country's National Health Commission reported today. There had been a total number of infections across the country to 74,185, with over 800 cases outside mainland China. New cases have fallen to under 2,000 for the past 2 days, but officials and analysts have warned the threat of a more serious outbreak remains as workers gradually return to work following a prolonged Lunar New Year holiday. China's ambassador to the European Union hub Brussels has said that the economic impact of the coronavirus outbreak would be short-term and that Beijing had enough resources to step in if needed.
With the business activities deferred and demand for services reduced, there is some impact on the Chinese economy. Yet the impact is limited, short-term, and manageable. The epidemic will not change the positive prospects of the Chinese economy in the long term.
The World Health Organization confirmed a total of 92 cases of human-to-human spread of the coronavirus in 12 countries outside China, but the agency does not have the data to make comparisons with China.
We're following up with countries to get more information about what happens about each case and the outcome. However, we have not yet seen the sustained local transmission except in specific circumstances like the Diamond Princess cruise ship.
As the virus-stricken Diamond Princess cruise ship is evacuated, Japan faces deepening criticism over its response to the outbreak, tarnishing what was supposed to be a triumphant Olympic year for Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. More than 540 people on board have been infected with the coronavirus, the most outside of China. But as the crisis off the coast of Yokohama winds down, focus now turns to Tokyo, where critics say the government's response has seemed more concerned with managing public perception than the outbreak. They say the ship quarantine may not have been effective.
Clearly there's been more transmission than expected on the ship, and I think the authorities in Japan are adjusting to that reality now and taking the necessary public health measures with other countries to evacuate people and deal with their follow-up in a different way.
The government has repeatedly said its response has been appropriate, and some prominent doctors have defended it. Japan is just months away from hosting the 2020 Olympic Games. For some Japanese, the outbreak carries an uneasy echo of the 2011 Fukushima nuclear meltdown, when the government was widely criticized for downplaying another crisis. Stephanie C., UNTV News and Rescue.
The Philippine government is continuously coordinating with the Japanese government for the repatriation of Filipinos on board the quarantine cruise ship in Japan. The health department has identified a quarantine area for those repatriates. Meanwhile, Filipinos who came from Wuhan City and are now being quarantined in Tarlac may go home on Saturday. Aiko Miguel will tell us why.
The 14-day quarantine period for repatriates from Wuhan City, Hubei, China, who are now in Nuclear City, Tarlac, will end on Saturday, February 22. The DOH confirms those Filipinos can go after completing the entire quarantine period. All have tested negative for COVID-19.
Bibigyan pa rin ho natin ng obligasyon or accountability ang ating mga regional offices na concerned for all of these persons.
As for the quarantine cruise ship in Japan, 41 Filipino crew members on board have tested positive for COVID-19. They have been isolated and brought to health facilities in Japan. Currently, there are 497 Filipinos on Diamond Princess cruise ship. According to the health department, they are continuously monitored and tested for the infection.
Kailangan po ay na-test sila at lalabas dapat na negatibo. Katulad ng lagi nating sinasabi, lahat po ng i-repatriate natin should be asymptomatic. Ibig sabihin, wala silang simptomas.
Based on the health department's information, there are 2 Filipinos in one room while being quarantined. The DOH also reports it has identified an area that will serve as a quarantine facility when the Filipinos on the cruise ship arrive in the country.
Sa ngayon, gusto lang muna namin ma-coordinate ng maayos sa ating local governments and the communities nakasama natin doon.
Diamond Princess, operated by Carnival Corporation, has been quarantined at the port of Yokohama since February 3 after a man who disembarked in Hong Kong before the ship traveled to Japan was diagnosed with the virus. And in the Philippines, as of 12 p.m. today, there are now 539 patients under investigation after recording 12 new PUIs from yesterday's tally of 527. Of the total count, 453 are negative for COVID-19. 22 PUI samples await test results. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
The quarantine period implemented on the more than 3,000 passengers and crew members on board Diamond Princess cruise ship docked off Yokohama, Japan ends today. Among those are 538 Filipino crew members and passengers. While some of them have expressed intention to be repatriated, the health department is not expecting all of them to return to the Philippines. It will be a one-batch repatriation. Dante Amento tells us why.
The repatriation of the Filipinos on board the quarantined cruise ship in Japan is voluntary. This is according to the Department of Health. The DOH adds there is still no final repatriation plan for the Filipino workers, but DOH Assistant Secretary Dr. Maria Rosario Vergere of the Public Health Team says they want to conduct only one batch of repatriation.
Yan ang gusto nating mangyari, Isang batch lang, although it can be 1 or 2 carriers, but we would want na isang batch lang silang dadating na sabay-sabay.
The Interagency Task Force will decide either to use a chartered plane or ship for the repatriation. Dr. Vergere clarifies, the employers of the Filipino crew members will shoulder the transportation expenses.
Because of the existing contracts of these employees with their employers, the employer will be the ones to to fund yung cost po ng kanilang airplane travel or whatever so that they can be brought home and be accommodated here in the Philippines.
Upon arrival in the country, the repatriates will automatically subjected to a 14-day mandatory quarantine. The location of facility for the measure, however, has not been disclosed yet. The athletes' village in New Clark City was used as the country's first quarantine facility for the repatriates who arrived from China. Dante Amento, UNTV, News and Rescue, City of Manila.
The Philippine Consulate General confirmed on Tuesday that a Filipino household helper tested positive for coronavirus disease or COVID-19, currently isolated at Pamela Yuden Nethersole Eastern Hospital in Taiwan. The 32-year-old Filipina maid initially tested negative of COVID-19 after she consulted for a cough and a slight fever. 3 days later, she returned with a positive result. She is believed to have contracted the virus from her 67-year-old employer who tested positive for the virus on February 13. The Philippine Consul General Rally Tejada said they have launched contact tracing of the people who were in close contact with the Filipina maid in the past weeks. He assured that all necessary assistance will be provided to the Filipino national.
Meanwhile, the aviation sector hopes to recover after recording a decline in passenger arrivals due to the coronavirus disease. Meanwhile, airline companies say they will experience problems in terms of the number of their crew members if quarantine protocols must be implemented on their every trip to and from Hong Kong and Macau. Rosalie Cos details why.
The Manila International Airport Authority or MIAA is unsure of when normal operations of international and domestic flights in Ninoy Aquino International Airport will resume. This uncertainty is due to the threats of the coronavirus disease 2019 or COVID-19. According to MIAA General Manager Ed Monreal, there was a passenger decrease of about 272,000 in international flights from January 25 to February 17, 2020. This is a result of the precautionary measures implemented by the government, including the travel ban imposed on China and its special administrative regions. Domestic flights, on the other hand, decreased by about 50,000 compared with recorded arrivals on domestic flights in the same period last year. MIAA hopes for further progress with the lifting of the travel ban on Taiwan and the temporary and partial lifting of the travel restrictions to and from Hong Kong and Macau.
So ngayon po, slowly recovering because meron ho tayong mga pagbabago sa mga panukala dahil sa pag-uusap ng task force na pinapatupad na ho unti-unti. And hopefully, I'm also praying that it will recover, our tourism will recover soon.
Meanwhile, MIAA hopes the Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases would be able to address the concerns of local airline companies on the protocols being implemented when flying to Hong Kong and Macau. Airline companies say they will have problems in the number of crew members if their personnel need to undergo quarantine each time after traveling to Hong Kong and Macau.
Kung ganun po ang proseso na meron pa ho silang quarantine, yung mga crew, medyo mahihirapan ho sila na mag-mount ng flights dito kahit na meron po ng temporary ban, temporary lifting ng mga pasahero papunta ng Hong Kong na pabalik po.
Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacanang.
Now that the travel of returning Filipino workers to Hong Kong and Macau have been allowed, airline companies are asking the government to exempt their crew members from the 14-day quarantine period. Meanwhile, public utility vehicle operators and drivers are asking the LTFRB to lift the 5,000 peso penalty for drivers caught not wearing face masks. Vincent Arboleda will tell us why.
Reports from the Air Carrier Association of the Philippines show that 21 flight routes to China, Hong Kong, and Macau have been suspended due to the threats of COVID-19. The flight route suspensions have resulted in the cancellations of 300 flights every week, affecting up to almost 300,000 passengers. These include the flights scheduled for March. According to NEDA, or the National Economic Development Authority. The tourism sector loses around 22.7 billion pesos every month. While according to the Department of Tourism, almost 43 billion pesos of revenue will be lost from February to March 2020 based on the expected number of tourists supposed to arrive in the country from China, Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan. Airline companies are asking the government to exempt their crew members from the 14-day quarantine period.
This protocol again is also benchmarked with the practice of our ASEAN neighbors. Singapore Airlines adopts a similar protocol of allowing the aircraft crew to be exempted from any travel ban.
Lim further explains that the 14-day quarantine will also impact their operations.
There is an economic impact to the airlines because every time you take away the crew and subject them to 14 days of quarantine, you reduce the available manpower of the airline.
Airline companies also request to remove the Philippine travel tax collected when an individual travels outside of the country. Meanwhile, jeepney operators want the Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board, or LTFRB, to remove the 5,000 peso penalty imposed on drivers of public utility vehicles caught not wearing a face mask. Under LTFRB Memorandum Circular 2020-05, all drivers are required to wear a face mask when operating as part of the preventive measures against the spread of COVID-19. Drivers and operators are willing to abide by the memo circular, but the problem is, there are times when there are no available face masks in stores.
Ang problema ho doon, walang mabilhan. Kapag wala raw mask, may bayad ng 5,000. May fine ng penalty na 5,000. Dapat po ay alisin yun.
According to the Department of Health, due to the limited supply of face masks, the priority to wear them are given to healthcare workers and patients. An LTFRB representative in today's Transportation Committee hearing in the lower house of Congress said they will consider the matter and review the memorandum circular. Vincent Arboleda, UNTV News and Rescue, House of Representatives.
Welcome back. A Bucor official was killed within the vicinity of the Bureau's headquarters in Muntinlupa City today. Authorities are hunting down the gunman. Sherwin Kulubong tells us why.
Bureau of Corrections Legal Chief Frederick Santos was shot dead as he was about to fetch his daughter from a school in Barangay Poblacion near his agency's headquarters in Muntinlupa City. Police say two gunmen shot Frederick Santos dead at around 2 p.m. on board his Toyota Hilux pickup.
At around kaninang hapon, mga bandang mag-alas 2, naka-receive kami ng call. May binaril malapit sa sa isang school near New Bilibid prisons. So I immediately instructed my personnel to respond. Tapos kasama ng investigator simultaneously, in which napag-alaman nga na inform ako na merong the victim is attorney Frederick Anthony Santos.
According to some witnesses, the unidentified assailants were riding a motorcycle and immediately left after shooting Santos. The senior Bucor official had wanted to testify in the Senate on the alleged freedom for sale scheme at the New Bilibid prison. The Office of the Ombudsman suspended Santos in September for 6 months after finding that he, along with 29 other Bucor officials, allegedly allowed the questionable release of prison convicts in violation of the expanded GCTA policy. Santos was suspended without pay for alleged grave misconduct, gross neglect of duty, and conduct prejudicial to the best interest of the service. The Muntinlupa police is investigating whether the motive behind the crime is related to the victim's job. Santos is the 15th Bucor official to be killed within the vicinity of its headquarters in Muntinlupa since 2011. Sherwin Kulubong, UNTV News and Rescue, Muntinlupa City.
Police Lieutenant Colonel Jovi Espenido believes an influential politician is behind his inclusion in the president's narco list. Meanwhile, the Philippine National Police Chief says he will deal with Espenido squarely. Dante Amento will tell us why.
Police Lieutenant Colonel Joby Espinido remains adamant to continue his campaign against illegal drugs and to perform his duty as a police official. This in spite of the issues he is facing now. Espinido said he is dismayed over the intelligence gathering of the Philippine National Police, so his name is simply included in the narco list. He adds that the PNP has a lot of intelligence departments to validate the drug list before revealing it to the public. In 2017, the Adjudication Board released a resolution which included his name in the list. He was still assigned in Tacloban later. Espinido believes an influential politician is behind his inclusion in the narco list. He did not disclose any details of the politician's position and address.
I can prove that that is not the due process of the intelligence cycle. That is a politics. Kaya hindi naman tayo, sir, ma'am, hindi naman tayo magmangmangan na hindi totoo. Ito man talaga ang realidad. Hindi sana paniwalaan natin yung mga kaibigan natin ng mga politicians na gusto lang sirain yung tao, yung polis. Sana yung totoo.
Espinido is hoping that his name will be removed from the narco list as a result of the investigation of the Adjudication Board, which will probably be released next month.
Sana may katapusan na to at saka it will result to positive for me na wala, hindi positive na mayroon nakasali, no? Alam ko naman na magsalita sila ng totoo.
Espinido adds that his house and properties are being checked as part of the investigation. Meanwhile, he apologized to PNP Chief Police General Archie Gamboa for speaking before the media this morning. He says he is being judged by the public for allegedly being on the narco list, or give him a month to prove his side before assigning him on floating status. Espinido is now assigned in Police Regional Office 6 while the investigation is underway. PNP Chief Gamboa, for his part, says the issue on Espinido's remarks of failure of intelligence is an internal matter.
I will deal with Espinido squarely as the Chief PNP and he being a member of the PNP.
Dante Amento, UNTV, News and Rescue, Philippines.
The Philippine National Police chief bared that he has a list of illegal gambling operators in all the regions of the country. The country's top cop also tells regional directors there is no reason not to launch operations against illegal gambling. Leia Ilagan explains why.
The Philippine National Police confirms that regional directors now have the list of illegal gambling operations in their respective areas. PNP Chief Police General Archie Gamboa says there is no more reason not to launch operations to stop illegal gambling. General Gamboa warns police commanders.
In the next few months, heads will roll. No, if you don't follow my instruction, no take, and you're not doing anything to stop illegal gambling.
The PNP chief further says that his order includes any form or kind of gambling. Police commanders could also prove themselves if they are not protectors of illegal gambling.
First, do not take anything from it. No. Second, do aggressive operations to convince me that you're not receiving something.
This past few weeks, General Gamboa had relieved several officials due to illegal gambling operations in their areas of responsibility. Among those relieved were 10% and station commanders and chiefs of police. Leia Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue, Camp Crame.
The family of a hazing victim in Wuhan, Sorsogon, who died on Sunday, now seek justice, but they call on the government for help. A family of another hazing victim remains uncertain if they would press charges. Meanwhile, authorities released 2 fraternity members who took the hazing victim to the hospital. Alan Manansala explains why.
Mina Dispabeladera still cannot believe that her youngest child, Omer, is gone. It was on Sunday afternoon when Omer died after a hazing session conducted by Tao Gama Fraternity in Bulan Town, Sorsogon Province. The bereaved mother remembers what a good son Omer was.
Tahimik, kahit nga pagalit ng ko ito, hindi ako sinasagot, tawa ng.
The Dispabeladera's family hopes that those involved in the death of their youngest would be brought to justice.
Pahinga ako ng tulong sa gobyerno kasi hindi naman namin kakayanin yan. Wala kaming pera. Ang anak ko, sa pera lang ang trabaho.
The administration of Solis Institute of Technology, where Omer attended first-year Bachelor of Science in Criminology, say they are willing to cooperate and shed light on the incident.
We are going to conduct an investigation of our own. We will have an investigative body to look into this matter so that we will know how to at least prevent, avoid, if not eradicate this type of grave act.
Bulan Mayor Romeo Gardola, for his part, will meet all school administrators in the town and all officials of Tao Gama Bulan Chapter to discuss the hazing case tomorrow, February 20.
Pagkatapos ng emergency imperiousing council meeting namin, susunod ko na ipapatawag yung fraternity na involved.
Elias Paul, another fraternity recruit who also underwent hazing together with Omer, was rushed to a hospital at about 6 in the evening yesterday.
Kasi po nilalagdat na siya, masikip na paghinga niya. Tapos dila ko sa pawa. Pagdating doon, pinadala naman dito sa Sorsogon.
Dennis says his family has no plans to sue the members and officers of the fraternity involved. He explains they are just thankful that Paul, his son, survived the hazing. On the other hand, the family of a third hazing victim is still undecided if they would press charges against Tao Gama.
Sir, no comment muna ako about dyan. Kasi kailangan muna namin mag-focus sa kapatid namin.
Police say 17 recruits underwent the initiation rites of Tao Gama fraternity that began on Sunday morning. One of them died, while 3 have been confirmed to be brought to the hospital due to bruises on several parts of their bodies. Bulan Police have temporarily released 2 frat members, Rembrandt Gerolao and Ulysses Beranya, who brought Omer to the hospital.
Mismo muna ng court.
Bakit daw?
Considering na kulang pa ng mga papilis, katulad halimbawa nitong hinihingi nilang medical certificate, yung post-mortem report, and then yung SOCO report na hindi naman natin mamadali ito dahil hindi naman natin hawak itong mga papilis na ito.
The Tao Gama Pi fraternity, through its Governor General Erwin Bola, issued an order on Tuesday to suspend all recruitment activities, including final initiation rites, following the death of the 23-year-old neophyte. Sorsogon Governor Chis Escudero will summon to a committee hearing tomorrow police officials in the province and in Bulan, school administrators and officers of Tao Gama fraternity to discuss the hazing incident. Alan Manansala, UNTV News and Rescue, Bulan, Sorsogon.
After several consultations with environmentalists and historians, Quezon City Mayor Joy Belmonte halts the construction of a project inside the historical park. But the Transportation Department assures the project will not be delayed. Joanna Nano tells us why.
The Quezon City local government has issued a cease and desist order to temporarily suspend the above-ground construction of MRT-7 station at the Quezon Memorial Circle. But the local chief executive clarifies the construction of the underground MRT-7 line will still push through.
We issued a cease and desist order for the superstructure or the above ground structure, which you can call probably the station. No? So the project itself is ongoing. They are still constructing the project. There will be no delays to that project.
Quezon City wants to preserve the integrity of the historical park where the remains of former President Manuel L. Quezon lie. The city government has also found out that the contractor has exceeded the approved floor area of the project's construction. Based on the clearance and permit given to San Miguel Corporation and EEI Corporation, the contractor of MRT-7, the Quezon City government allowed only 2,457 square meters for the project. However, on the updated report on the project presented to Mayor Belmonte, it was found that the project has covered 10,791 square meters. That is over 8,000 more than the allowed area.
The way the structure looks to me is that of a commercial structure. And I think commercial structures have no place in a green space or a park that is there for leisurely purposes and for the enjoyment of the people. Now, it's a heritage site as well.
The Quezon City government will hold a meeting with the MRT7's contractor and the Department of Transportation to tackle the issue. The National Commission for Culture and the Arts, together with the Quezon Avenceñas and other descendants of the Quezon family, will also join the discussion. The DOTR will coordinate with the Quezon City government to clarify the matter. The department assures it will come up with a balanced solution so as not to delay the MRT7 project.
Definitely will not allow it to basically delay the whole project of MRT7. The Secretary always follows and monitors the strict implementation based on accepted schedule. Hindi po pumapayag ating malakalihim na may ganyang mga pangyayari at maantala ang ating proyekto.
Joanano, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
A lawmaker in the upper chamber reveals that the government has withheld the release of multi-billion peso realigned funds in the 2020 national budget. The senator also advises President Rodrigo Duterte to be wary of some quote-unquote self-proclaimed allies in Congress. Arlene Delgado details why.
Unmitigated gall. This is how Senator Panfilo Lacson described the lawmakers who allegedly tried to realign at least 80 billion pesos from the 4.1 trillion peso 2020 national budget for their district's pet projects. According to Lacson, his office received information the Department of Budget and Management and the Palace withheld the release after learning the realignments were taken from some of the flagship projects of the Build infrastructure program. Seeing it as too much, the senator says the government decided to just withhold the release through a DBM circular instead of exercising the president's power to veto, as it could delay the approval of the 2020 budget. Late last year, it was also Lacson who revealed the 2020 national budget was full of last-minute insertions. The senator did not sign the bicameral report, claiming that his office received a flash drive that contained files of budget items worth billions of pesos inserted in the report, which was signed by President Rodrigo Duterte last month. Lacson adds the chief executive's decision shows his strong political will, which the senator says is one of the reasons for continuing to supporting the president. He also advises President Duterte to be cautious of some of his quote-unquote self-proclaimed allies in Congress, whose loyalty lie where the money lies. The House of Representatives has yet to comment on the matter. Arlene Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue, Senate of the Philippines.
The Bureau of Animal Industry warns the public on the danger of bringing gift items that are pork products or contain pork. Consumers should make sure to buy products approved by the National Meat Inspection Service and the Food and Drug Administration. Grace Casin tells us why.
Bringing home something for our loved ones is part of the Filipino culture. But according to the Bureau of Animal Industry or BAI, gift items may be a vehicle to spread African swine fever. BAI Director Ronnie Domingo explains that pork products gifted during the holiday season last year might have been infected with the ASF virus or might have come from ASF-affected areas. The official admits that those pork products could not be confiscated at checkpoints, especially if the items were transported inside the baggage of travelers.
Yung mga natira-tira mga pagkain ay naipakain sa mga alagang baboy doon sa mga rural areas na merong backyard farms after several weeks. Kaya na, bitaw na yung mga sakit doon sa mga lugar na di natin naasahan.
Domingo appeals to the public to cooperate with the government in its measures to stop the spread of the virus. Inspections and checkpoints in different parts of the country continue, including the disinfection of vehicles.
Kaya lang, problema natin, kapag yung biyahero ay nilagay niya sa personal bag niya naman yung karne, kaya sa private vehicle, kotse. Yung mga private vehicles na mga magagandang kotse o mga nagbibiyahin na dala-dalang kanita bag, hindi naman natin naparayan sa ating mga check.
Based on BAI's record, around 230,000 hogs died and had been culled. The agency clarifies, however, that only 20% of those hogs were directly infected by the virus. Domingo adds that most of the culled hogs were inside a 1-kilometer radius from ground zero, which is part of the protocol to stop the spread of ASF. Grace Casin, UNTV News and Rescue.
A senator says banning single-use plastics in the country is impossible without a direct replacement. The lawmaker also wants to focus on implementing intensified recycling efforts among local government units and manufacturing companies. Arlene Delgado explains why.
Senator Cynthia Villar believes a nationwide single-use plastic ban is impossible without a replacement. This was after several groups explained at a Senate committee hearing today that paper is not really recyclable and biodegradable as many think.
Baka impossible iban kasi wala naman ako nadidinig na replacement for single-use plastic. What we want is for them to recycle.
According to the Philippine Alliance for Recycling and Material Sustainability, paper bags that are commonly used in the market have brittle fibers which usually end in landfills. The group adds plastics and styrofoams that were previously used by fast food chains are much more recyclable than those paper packaging used nowadays because of their wax or plastic coatings.
The problem with paper is that if it gets contaminated with other waste, it is no longer recyclable. Any paper that comes in contact with food becomes non-recyclable already.
Data from the Department of Environment and Natural Resources show that more than 21 million metric tons of solid waste was collected last year. 52% of this is classified as biodegradable, while 27% is recyclables, including plastics. Senator Villar calls on big manufacturing companies to look into providing incentives to further encourage the community to take part in recycling efforts.
We join po ibang mga cash for trash po, and we give mga condiments, mga rulers, mga pencil to encourage people.
Coca-Cola is investing in a PET bottle recycling facility locally. So we target the completion of operation by 2021 po. The company's program is to achieve plastic neutrality. Whatever we sell, we will recover within the shortest possible time.
Villar adds the DENR will spend over 1 billion pesos to put up one plastic cycling facility and composting facility per city and province in the country. The senator also wants recycling to be taught to school children to introduce waste management at an early age. Arlene Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue, Senate of the Philippines.
And for the news abroad, here's Kath Dumaraos reporting live from Bangkok, Thailand. Kath, good evening.
Good evening, Diego. A high-profile local Taliban figure who announced and justified the 2012 attack on teenage Nobel laureate Malala Yousafzai has escaped detention. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump had commuted the sentence of Rod Blagojevich, the former Democratic governor of Illinois convicted of political corruption for trying to sell former President Barack Obama's vacated U.S. Senate seat. But Beverly Saison will tell us why.
In the USA, after spending nearly 8 years in federal prison after his conviction on corruption charges, Rod Blagojevich strolled out of prison a free man Tuesday night. The former Illinois governor had his 14-year prison sentence commuted by President Donald Trump Tuesday and left a federal prison in Colorado hours later.
I just believe that sometimes out of evil good things can happen, and I think that the wickedness and evil that was done to me and to my family can be turned to good.
Blagojevich, 63, was convicted of 17 charges of public corruption in 2011 for doling out political favors in exchange for financial benefits, including an attempt to sell former President Barack Obama's U.S. Senate seat for campaign cash. He was expected to be let out early in 2024 for good behavior. Trump had previously hosted and fired Blagojevich, a Democrat, on an episode of Celebrity Apprentice back in 2010. The president added that Blagojevich's sentence is ridiculous considering the crimes he committed. In Turkey, a prominent Turkish businessman and human rights activist has been rearrested just hours after he was acquitted of trying to overthrow the government, Turkish state media says. A court ordered Osman Kavala''s immediate release earlier on Tuesday after dropping charges against him and 8 others over protests in 2013. He had spent over 2 years in prison. But hours later, a warrant was issued against him over a 2016 coup attempt which triggered a massive crackdown. Rights group Amnesty International said Cavallo's renewed detention smacks of deliberate and calculated cruelty. In Pakistan government on Monday for the first time admitted that former Pakistan Taliban spokesman Ehsanullah Ehsan, who was responsible for the shooting of Malala Yousafzai in 2012 and carrying out the deadly Peshawar Army School carnage in 2014, has escaped from prison. Ehsan, in an audio clip released on social media on February 6, said that he escaped the confinement of Pakistani security agencies on January 11th, claiming Pakistani forces failed to keep their promises made to him during his surrender in 2017. Without revealing his current location, Ehsan said that he would make a detailed statement about the days of his confinement in the coming days, as well as about his future plans. After the escape, a petition was filed in the Peshawar High Court by the families of the children killed in the school attack against military and civil officials. Beverly Saison, UNTV News and Rescue.
Japan is aiming to install more high-tech toilets complete with heated seats and music to cover up any embarrassing sounds in preparation for the 2020 Tokyo Olympics and Paralympics. Stephanie C. details why.
The Tokyo 1964 Olympics left a lasting legacy in Japan, shaking off war-ravaged reputation contributing to a building boom. It also provided a catalyst for the nation's high-tech toilets. 60 years ago, Japan got rid of traditional squat toilets for the Games, replacing them with new Western-style flush ones. For 2020, the government is trying to remove the few remaining old-school squat toilets from public restrooms.
I think Japanese people treasure the time they spend on the toilet. You don't just use it and leave. How comfortable, efficient, and calming the experience is matters. For example, the cleanliness of the toilet seat and of the surrounding area is important. The little details being perfect is desired, and so Japanese toilets are made to answer those needs.
With that comes a toilet culture that has evolved to embrace toilet museums, poo-poo songs, and restrooms packed with high-tech gadgetry.
Eating and excreting will finally be viewed in the same way. After all, humans need to both eat and release, but currently, only the eating portion is talked about. If excretion becomes a topic of conversation, I believe life will be more peaceful and healthy.
At the forefront of Japan's restroom revolution, Toto has played a big part in that upgrade. Heated seats, lids that open and close automatically, bowls that self-deodorize, these features have become standard in tens of millions of Japanese homes since Toto sold its first buttock cleansing washlet toilet seat at the dawn of the 1980s. At its base in Kita, Kyushu in southwestern Japan, a museum documents Toto's progress from squat porcelain to its latest model, a design that squirts water out at different speeds with larger droplets to maximize cleanliness for a princely sum of 570,000 yen or $5,189. Museum visitor Tsunekazu Ori, 82, vividly recalled his first encounter with a washlet in the early 1980s.
It was taken aback when I first saw it, but there was no much talk about how it would clean you.
Stephanie C., UNTV News and Rescue.
Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula is riddled with caves, underwater rivers, and sinkholes known as cenote. As archaeologists explore more and more of the land, they are finding more and more artifacts of Mayan civilizations underground in the waters of what they have termed the Great Mayan Aquifer. Now, those sites and the historic treasures they hold will be preserved and investigated. The project will focus on 6 cenotes that are known to contain Mayan artifacts. Digital scans will be made of the artifacts so that the finds will be able to be easily shared with the general public. And those are the news from And those are the news from the other parts of the globe. Back to you, Diego.
Thank you, Kath Dumaraos, reporting live from Bangkok, Thailand.
Chinese officials have turned to new technology to battle coronavirus with 3D printed quarantine rooms. Let's watch this.
A Shanghai firm recently began to create coronavirus quarantine rooms with 3D printing technology. The company has made 15 rooms and donated them to a hospital in Shanning City, Hubei Province. Yingshuang Building Technique Company says all their quarantine rooms were put into use last week. Each of the quarantine rooms measures 10 square meters, big enough for 2 beds. They meet required standards for heat preservation and isolation and are designed to withstand strong winds and even earthquakes. The company says they are easy and cheap to make.
A quarantine room can be printed in 2 hours, and one printing machine can produce 15 rooms a day. Its base cost is around 28,000 yuan.
Winson says the cost is so low because the construction materials are cheap.
We use recyclable materials including sand and construction residue. It is very environmentally friendly. When it comes to safety, the structures are at least twice as strong as concrete construction.
Very mobile and easy to set up, the 3D printed wards can be used as soon as they are connected to electric power. They are easy to disinfect and can be reused when the epidemic ends. The company's 3D printing technology is also being used for other structures including agricultural facilities, industrial parks, and some tourist attractions. Kat Dumaraos, UNTV News and Rescue.
A group of mothers are patrolling the streets of Manila at night where a death squad once killed dozens of people believed to be selling or using drugs. Nina Armilio will tell us why.
Late each night, a dozen women chat and share a meal before hitting the narrow streets of a Manila suburb where a death squad once roamed. They are the Women's Patrol, a group of 18 mothers and grandmothers whose nightly walks through the dimly lit alleys of Pateros have been helping to deter shadowy gunmen behind the murders of residents linked to illegal drugs. Not long after Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte declared a war on drugs in 2016 and promised thousands would die, Pateros was being terrorized by attackers in hoods and ski masks known locally as the Bonnet Gang. With a town of 63,000 paralyzed by fear, the women decided to arm themselves with flashlights and patrol their community, keeping up a nightly presence to disrupt the Bonnet Gang.
Simula po nung nagpatrolya kami, inano po namin itong ano na to, bumalik yung dating sigla rito sa lugar namin, bumalik yung talagang, bali parang nawala yung takot nila. Kasi noon, gaya sinabi ko alas 7 pa lang, wala ng tao, hanggang alas 5, takot lumabas ang mga tao rito. Pero nung nakita nilang effective yung ginagawa namin, dahil talagang pag may naririnig kami, iniikot namin. Kumbaga parang nagkaroon uli ng kumpiyansa yung mga tao.
Pateros is now safer and the gunmen have gone, say those who live there. The women never found out who the Bonnet Gang were, Hello said, but believe they thwarted them.
Ginawa po namin mga kababaihan dito, nag-usap-usap kami na bakit hindi namin subukan magpatrolya at na ano naman po namin na naging effective naman po.
Pateros Police Chief Colonel Simnar Gran praised the patrollers and said local police had worked closely with them and the mayor to tighten the town's security. A few officers accompanied the women each night, enforcing curfews and smoking bans and warning people against drugs.
I think if some of cities or municipalities and their barangays can replicate what these ladies are doing. They are doing this voluntarily. They are doing this without any compensation. Just they are just civic-minded people.
Nina Armilio, UNTV News and Rescue.
those are the reasons behind the news. And before we close, we will recap with today's significant soundbites. I am William Theo.
And I am Angelo Castro III. Because we need to know, we will always ask why. Good evening.
Taron kaninang hapon, mga bandang mag-alas 2, naka-receive kami ng call. May binaril malapit sa sa isang school near New Bilibid Prisons. So I immediately instructed my personnel to respond. Tapos kasama ng investigator simultaneously, in which napag-alaman nga na inform ako na merong the victim is attorney Frederick Anthony Santos.
I can prove that is not the due process of the intelligence cycle. That is a politics.
I will deal with the Espinido squarely as the chief PNP and he being a member of the PNP.
Clearly there's been more transmission than expected on the ship, and I think the authorities in Japan are adjusting to that reality now.
Yan ang gusto nating mangyari, no? Isang batch lang, although it can be 1 or 2 carriers, but we would want na isang batch lang silang dadating na sabay-sabay.
The way the structure looks to me is that of a commercial structure. And I think commercial structures have no place in a green space or a park that is there for leisurely purposes and for the enjoyment of the people. Now, it's a heritage site as well.